Oh my God. I was just saying to Minton and Kate that I wish that you guys were all in the house with me. This is such a good group. It's like a who's who of Gateless and Minton's friends too. So good to see you. Put in the chat where you're writing from. I want to see. Oh my gosh. So many places. Maine, Baltimore, Cambridge, Dallas, Nashville. So exciting. And Minton's at her house in Nashville, right, Minton?
Yep.
Yep, there she is. The Hall of Mirrors, as she says.
Yeah.
I was so excited for this call. Minton and I were just talking about when we first met each other, and we first met each other 25, 24 years
Ish.
ago.
Yeah.
We were in junior high.
That's right. I was still smoking,
We were in junior. We hadn't even gotten our periods yet.
jumping on the bed.
Jumping on the bed, playing spin the bottles. It was good old days. No, I was on book tour and I think I said this in an email. I was like, um, we were at this, it was a weird gig, right, Minton? We were at this kind of shishi private school, I think. Was it a boarding school or something?
No, it's just a kind of, yeah, it's just a private school and they had a story and song. I think it was called Story and Song.
And they had a story and song, and I was doing a reading from my book, and Marshall Chapman was singing, who's, a very big singer-songwriter. And then Minton did this like incredible performance, and everybody's jaw was on the floor, and like she just like rocked it up. It was just like so fun. And I then I got up there and read my little chapter, and I was like, I want to know that lady. Anyway, we kept in touch, and then Minton reached out to me when I started Gateless. Um, and she was like, I want to do something with you. And I told her about the Gateless teacher training. And she was like, yeah, I want to do that. She didn't even ask what it was. And she was the first class. Jody Poloni's here. She was the first class. Hi, Lovey. And Kate Baldwin. And yeah, that was an incredible, it was sort of like Gateless got smoking then. And then I started the academy that year, and Minton did the first academy, and she just finished another academy. So yeah, we've been, and then you've been done a bunch of retreats. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Suzanne Kingsbury, and I'm the founder of a literary arts organization that's called Gateless Writing. And Minton is trained to teach in the Gateless method, but she's taught all over the world and in her own style that is just incredible that mixes Gateless in there. And Minton Sparks, as you guys know, because I've sent out a million emails about her, is, performance artist, writer, like you do so much, Minton. It's amazing. And I feel like what you're really showing us is that we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves. I remember talking to you at the teacher training and you were like, I'm not quite sure like what I am. You know what I mean? And that's when there's no one else like you. And anytime I've watched you perform from like Nashville to New York City to, it's just been incredibly inspiring. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming today to talk to us about voice and story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, lovely, lovely to have you here. And I wanted to start you guys with having Minton actually read something to us so that we could hear her voice, so that we can kind of see how she puts words together and the way that you can kind of break form in a way and play really within the wilderness of the written word, the spoken word in this case too. So Minton, do you mind?
I'd love to. I think I wrote this at a retreat here at the house, at the Parrot House. So that's
Oh
why,
my
yeah.
God. Okay.
And it is sort of, yeah, it's a title piece from a record, but I usually perform it. I'm going to read it. But anyway, it's called Where Humans End and Birds Begin. Cheryl Lynn is that musky woman after work. She's got a stolen Rembrandt in her purse and she is idling at the open mic at a downtown club. She's got a box of unlit matches in her mouth. If her jaw relaxes, I'm afraid barn swallows will swarm out in this world where humans end and birds begin. Now, she is a love dove of a woman, but an insomniac, peddling peace to all of us with this little olive branch. What the hell she got to be sorry for? She keeps one white feather tucked behind each ear. Will you all wave with me to her imaginary friends over there? Hiya, Maya Angelou. Dorothy Allison, is that you? Tom Waits, Anise Mojgani. Who among us in this crowd have doused a dream, never uttered out loud? There is strength in numbers, they say. Never forget that gorilla named Regret brandishing a bayonet dangling off the chandelier, or the pig named Patriarchy honking the horn in the parking lot. Beep, 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 beep. Oh, shit, forget about him. This is about Cheryl Lynn. She's perched like a promise on the edge of our stage, like a hummingbird bumping on the bars of her cage, never speaking, just peck, 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 pecking at the mic. One night it causes this shrill feedback, and Cheryl Lynn thinks, hell yeah, this is what real music sounds like in this world where humans end and birds begin. If the walls grow quiet, Cheryl Lynn might just take flight on the long arm wings of what looks like she's shooting us both the peace sign and the middle finger. Is it peace or fuck you? Oh, I pray it's peace. Her beak lips do quiver as she skywrites that love letter to a raptor writhing in her chest. It's a violent dance of thrash and rest, till upper mouth and outer throat, this wise old bird turns her inside out. In this world where humans end and birds begin. In the final throes of her transfiguration, you may feel like you've witnessed her degradation, but listen, believe me, she dances like a car-struck cat, confused for chasing butterflies. I want to rise and cheer for Cheryl Lynn, for all those years of suffered silence. But then I find I am deathly quiet before the throne of her. Woman seems self-taught to me. When Cheryl Lynn's performance finally comes to a close and she knows what she knows. Yeah, she knows what she knows, though she's never actually spoken. All but look at the rust on her wrist from the chains that she's broken. She flits and flutters back to her seat, darts in and dares us, kisses our cheek, baptizing a boldness we may or may not seek. And it is there in the back of the room where her wings start to sprout. Perhaps it's then that she shouts, who among us has never spoken, say I? Who among us has never spoken?
Oh my God. It's amazing when you start. It's like I never wanted to stop. And I'm also, as I'm listening, so curious about your choices. Like on retreat, you do that in what feels like just record time, like the 20 minutes, and it just like comes out. And there are these, there's the surprise of the prose is really what I notice. Like the sparrows coming out like this. Does it come to you, Minton, when you're writing an imagery, or like, how do you see it as you're writing? Are you pausing? Are you making choices? Like what's happening when you're on the page like that?
I think in that particular case, just being in the safety and the nurturing space of retreat, right? It kind of helps you go way deeper than you would just sitting at your table in the morning, possibly. Um, I do that thing. I love the just writing and images come in. This was sort of a sea change for me voice wise, because I had only written family stories up until then, and the voice had been sort of this historical family story. And I started performing with a poet, Anise Mojgani, who we got to tour a little bit together, and I was so influenced by him. He a little bit influenced the voice of this. But in the writing, I think I noticed that as a square one, I have to name and claim the people and the place I came from, even if that doesn't show up in my piece. So that's part of the voice. That's a leap, but it's is sort of standing on a 2 feet in a particular place, and what something comes from that. I don't think I answered the question, but it's sort of close.
Yeah, and like when you like wave when the narrator waves to like Tom Waits and Maya Angelou, like how did that come to you, the names? Like does it just like hit the page? Like you don't know where it comes, or how does
Yeah,
that list?
I don't know where it comes from. I mean, that list, and actually that list can change. That was the original list because it's I'm reading it, but then I think of imaginary friends I have in a performance that changes. But yeah, in the writing, it all just comes. And I think I know that when I'm sitting in retreat or if I'm teaching, people are, super surprised by what comes out. I think, so.
Yeah, yeah, it is surprising. And when you go back and edit the work, because the voice is so clear and it's so fantastic almost, what are you keeping in mind when you're like looking at a piece that you've written, say in retreat or in the studio or something like that? Like then you bring it home. Like how are you actually managing to edit this rich work?
I do a lot of work through out loud reading. So I have about 4 people that I read to. And when I read to them, I think I'm asking them something, but I'm not. I'm really just want to hear my voice bounce against somebody. And once I do that, the voice is definitely in the body, right? And so when I read it out loud, I can tell everywhere it drops. And that's the editing process, is where it drops, where the vibration of the main vibration of the piece drops. And so that's when I know that's something to take out.
And how are you so tuned into the body? Like, do you have things that you do in your life that you feel like drop you in so that you and the body are in a constant relationship of like talking to each other? Or like, how do you feel like that happens? Or has
I
it always happened?
pretty much always, I think, I was thinking today when I knew we were having this conversation about voice. It's something about what I already know. So I'm already an athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life. So that's sort of the, body part. Uh, it's always inside there. And because I'm a performance artist, every bit of writing is in my body. Like my brother's my director, and he'll tell me, put that piece in your hip and do it from your hip. So that
Hmm.
helps my editing. I can edit from my hip, or I can edit from my belly, or I can edit from my left foot. And that is a tool that is really, it makes that language makes sense to me.
Hmm. Hmm. How
Um,
does he know to say, do that one from your hip?
I don't know. He's a lifelong director, but it's just, he's watching, and maybe if I'm not dropped into the piece yet, so I'm not in the piece yet, so drop down in your body. So there's a real part of the voice that is completely just connected to the body.
And then when he says like drop down into your hip, does your hip change? Like, is it like you're sort of on a proverbial stage while you guys are working together and you can kind of feel the looseness or the energy come in there?
Yeah, it's more just intention, right? I just take who I am into my hip. And like he just recently said that. That's why I'm saying hip. But and it's different. If I read a new piece and I read it from my hip, it's going to be very different than if I read it from my heart or my backside. I mean, it's just different, right? And I get there is something there in that part.
Yeah. I remember I remember being at retreat with you at Gray Bear when we did a gateless retreat down there. And do you remember we got like hungry and it was like in the night and we went into the kitchen and we were like trying to find something secretly to eat. And you started to just like spontaneously you went into character, and I kind of saw the shift in you. And then it would like you would come out and be Minton again, and then you would go in. And has that happened all your life, or like, eh,
I don't know about that. I do know that I'm basically a Kansas City librarian in this law. You know what I mean? I feel I'll get with people and they're like, "You're a performer, wow!" And it's like, no, I'm kind of basically. And I don't know why I picked Kansas City, but just kind of got librarian energy. But on stage, it's like the whole thing opens up, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
channeling and it's there's nothing to me more alive than that. And it's endless choices. You can pick anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it happened kind of, I saw it there and I thought about it because it was just you and I. So it wasn't like you were doing it for anyone. I mean, for me a little, but
Yeah.
it was like, you weren't gonna get like coins thrown on the stage or whatever. And then when we were all got together outside and when we were singing, Amy's Speaks was there and everything, and you did it again. You went into this thing. And it was like there was no self-consciousness. There was no like, am I going to be able to? And I actually watched the Pee Wee Herman documentary, started to watch it the other night. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's like this thing about really great performers that there's like this, they don't, maybe they are self-conscious, but they make these choices not to be or something. And then you're just like amazed that the character is just like there. I don't know. It's hard to
I
explain.
think the level of play, I think this is just, I think the level of play is a portal to all of that. And there's not a forced choice about level of play. You're somebody, right? If we're together, we're playing and
Yeah.
dying, right? So it's just that it's whatever that is. And I feel like when it's at the highest level, writing, editing, performing, it's play at its highest level. And so it's almost like permission, it's not permission, it's just going into play.
Yeah, it's just going into play. And then when you're on the page rather than in the body, which when we were like, outside of the writing room, you were in the body, right? And then when we would get in the writing salons, while I was watching people write, I would watch you to see, like, is there some way in which she's like changing character? But there wasn't. You just were you. But then when you read aloud, it was like all these characters were coming, or one character in the narration that was like really, really strong and funny and like surprising and everything. So when you're actually in that space of writing, like most of us are, is it almost like you come into like a different brain state where you're like moving from character to character, or you let kind of Minton move away, and then you become this narrator that's got these experiences?
I don't know. I think that, I mean, I'd love to hear people say how that happens for them. I think they come to me. It definitely comes to me. I'm visited by every one of them. And so I had a period of time where I was just writing about my great aunts. And, the archetype of the great aunt, walking down to a barn in my family, like in an asymmetrical dress. It looked like she tied together some single sheets, and it was like Eastern Bloc gray dresses. Anyway, they would just like arrive, and I felt like that was it, right? And so the writing was just like, okay, they're here. And,
Yeah.
and that thing of, when you don't let your hands stop, it's like, I'm not thinking about them. I don't know, they're coming through.
Yeah, you're not deciding, you're not entertaining doubt. You're just like, okay, here they are.
Yeah, here
Yeah,
they
and I'm
are.
gonna let them through and let them talk and let them, yeah. Yeah. And there is that micro moment, I think, where doubt could visit. And then it's almost like the artistic consciousness just moves right through it almost.
Yeah, I think so too, right? It's a thing. I think everyone who's writing has that moment where, I loved it when someone will let that show in a workshop, right? They're blah, 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 and then the gears just caught, the bicycle gears just caught. And whether that's I just went through the portal or the character just showed up or um, some form of spiritual connection just showed up I don't know, whatever that is. So yeah, I love that.
And maybe also there isn't a fear, or if there is a fear, it's not entertained, of leaving the I behind, the identity of who we believe we are. It's like, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about having to grip so hard to like this, I can just let that dissolve and let this other thing move through with force and entertain it and let it have its way almost.
Right. It's almost like you come out of the exile of separation, right? So it's like I am no longer a separate entity. I'm all, you've invited it all in, and now it's you're just dancing with something completely different. And that happens in the writing. And for me, when I'm performing, it's that too. It takes off into hyperspace. Like, oh, now we're out here somewhere where I don't, doesn't happen in daily life.
Yeah. And and you don't really have to be a risk taker in real life to do that. It's
Right.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like some people will take big risks externally, but they can't let go of that identity and allow that sort of, as you're saying, the false belief in separation to like grip them. They just keep the grip of the false separation and they can't let it go. But yeah, but then other people are able to do it even if they're not like doing wild things out in the world, sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you do a lot of exploration and adventure, but you know what I mean? It's not like it is a big risk though within the self. For some reason, it often feels like that when you're playing character, you're letting that move through.
Yeah. And I think, the voice is I think it's for me, it's when the alignment happens. Like I know that's true. I know that's the true voice that wants to come through this piece. And I know if it's not a voice, that's what I'm talking about when I say it out loud. It's like, oh, it drops. Like the energy drops. I'm off in the hinterland versus the energy staying in a line, tracking.
Mm.
So I think that has something, that's my experience of it is having that line, sort of a through line. So
And when the like the aunts come through, the great aunts, so that would have been a time when you wouldn't have necessarily been alive or been right and you were writing about something that they took over, but it's not like Minton necessarily knew that this was like a factual truth.
right. No,
Yeah.
they're like the poor, yeah. The intention held of the great ants, right? And then here they come. They're whatever they're going to do. And but they come through in a way. That period of writing for me was super true because I was doing a little soul reclamation of historical figures in my life. And so I felt like I was going to the four corners and blowing a big whistle, and they came in. And so I felt like that felt really true. And this piece feels true in a different way, you know.
Yeah, and I would say ever since I met you, like especially since the teacher training, when we kind of got close there and I was able to like know you as a friend, that it seems to me that outside of the page, outside of performance, there's a seeking that's going on, a willingness to kind of look at like internal family systems or like, ways that you work with the human psyche and with who you are. And how do you think that that kind of work, the work of being, of investigating our being and asking questions and being curious about our emotional life, our psychology, like how much do you think that has an effect on the strength of the work or the power of the work or the ability for the eye to stand aside?
It feels central, like imperative to that, right? That ever growing process of trying to, you were saying what it's ineffable in some ways, but to connect to an ineffable source, that's as much a part of the writing as any writing itself. So the seeking outside of the time on the page, which I spend a lot of time doing that, and I think a lot of people who are drawn to writing do that.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're phenomenal in that. I mean, I'm always just blown away, right? When you're teaching, it's just mind blowing, right? You're from coming from some other place, and I think I've asked you several times, like, what does that feel like, in the middle of that? For
Mm.
you, do you feel like the eye just leaves and
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. I think it's like zeroing in on that moment where it's a moment. It's a micro moment of like I'm gonna let this happen. Do you know what I mean? I am gonna just let the self-consciousness go out the door and let what's coming through move. And maybe a trust in it in some way. I trust that whatever's moving through the force. And maybe it is because it feels so good in the body. And I don't know. I don't know if we're used to stuff feeling good in the body. I think we move around this world feeling very tight and very fight or flight, especially as women, especially as an artists, and especially in this time in history. And so to feel good, to feel like, whew, I can let go and let this thing come through, whether we're performing or writing or teaching, maybe it doesn't feel familiar. So there's this micro moment where a lot of people just are like, no, I'm in a grip. I'm afraid. I can't do that. I'm not going to let that happen. And then that freedom, and we work all the time on that micro moment, maybe to say, like, why am I afraid? Do I need to be afraid? And asking questions around it, which is what I think we do with that work, like the meditation and all those things that used to be called woo woo, and now they're just called survival. Right.
They used to call them woo woo. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, we're like learning that you can't live without them. And in terms of like you growing as an artist, when we were at the teacher training, there was a lot of talk about like where we want to go, like as artists, as writers. And do you feel like you're constantly doing that work of like, where do I want to go with this? Or is it kind of you're at a place in your career where you just let it sort of say yes to things? Or, you know what I mean? Like, do you have goals? Do you have a blueprint that you're a little bit always thinking about?
COVID kind of ruined the blueprint for me just because I had that whole year booked and then it fell out. And so this past year I'm building it back. That's sort of the concrete part of it. Um, as far as goals, I'm trying to write another novella. That's very hard for me. Short pieces are a bit much easier. Uh, and I always think I don't want to perform anymore. And then I'll go perform and think this is what I'm born to do. So it's like, I guess I should die. I mean, it's really like, okay, well, what else am I always say, well, I guess I could be the greeter at Kroger. I mean, maybe some other stuff, but I do get to a place thinking, well, I'm gonna keep dragging my ass out there, but then I'll have a show and it's like, this is what I do. So I'm so grateful for people that can not have continued to do it, but are evolving inside of it. And that is it is the vehicle for me to evolve. So I know that I'm a different person because I've taken that up and it's, it is the thing I do. And so the voice is loudest and clearest when I'm there. And so, that's, but I don't know. I always do think, well, how long am I going to do this? But I'm not going to stop.
Why? Like, is it like the amount of effort it takes in the production? Is it like, is it vulnerable? Like, what is it? Why is there that
I think
kickback?
it's having to go have pictures taken and, all that. It's like, I just did a video and I was like, could we all put like some screens on this? Don't you have little, but I thought that's what, who cares? And then someone older than me will say, God, it really inspires me for you to be out there. And I don't know what age they think I am, but it's more doing the face, like, oh, so I will never stop writing, ever, 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 because I'm a writer and that's what I do. But the performance stuff, I always have to fight myself at this point.
Yeah. And it's like traveling and
Yeah, traveling and having 7 shows at a festival. But when I'm doing it, I couldn't love it more. But it's the consternation of heading into it.
yeah, yeah. And I remember before COVID feeling like, oh my God, Minton is everywhere. And then performers had it was like at least 18 months where you guys weren't able to because nobody could
There
sit
was
in an
no
audience.
club. You couldn't get together with anybody unless you invited people over to your driveway in a mask and just shouted it to the rooftops there.
Yeah. But you sang during that time, I remember.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's when we had Music City Sings at 6. That was fun.
That was so fun. I loved it. And I feel like Minton, you're one of the people that I I think we all in Gateless look to you as like, just do it. Just blow it out. Just try it. It's gonna be what it is. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I feel like your production is just out of this world. Like there's something so sophisticated about the way you even just put the music together, or what the stage looks like, or what you decide with the costuming, if there is costuming, and the work is so good. But there's also a devil may care in the middle of it, so that the audience feels very relaxed, and then there's something very cool about it, but it hip sort of. And then there's also this like, I feel relaxed being there, don't have to be perfect. And it's just a very interesting balance. And I'm wondering if you started there, like, do you think that's just your style, or did you kind of go for that, or, like, did it evolve over time?
I think that I mean, I always said like Nashville was so helpful to me because I'm no competition to anybody. It's like, what is she doing? We don't even know what she's doing. Okay, I'll play on her record. Okay. It was sort of a like, and that was I love positioning there because it wasn't being a dark horse, but it was being such an outsider in any sort of there it's not a genre. This what I do is not really have a genre, and that's it just isn't. And so, yeah, it's fun. It really is how much fun you can have. Can I entertain myself? But I think for anyone, I'm in this group of artists right now who everyone has been to conservatory, and I'm so in awe, just like, oh my God, they started at 4 and they've, gone to graduate school either in their instrument or in their voice and I'm such a folk artist, and
Mm.
but it's wonderful. We're all collaborating on different things right now to have a performance at the end of the year. And it's so inspiring to me to be with people who've done nothing but, I think they were swimmers in high school. They always make really good grades and then they go on to do something else amazing with their life, and I was probably, playing softball or something. I don't know. But I don't know what that has to do with anything, but except that cross-pollination, that's the central part of my voice. I've been lucky enough to work with people who are at the top of their world. And because I am a made-up genre, they've let me play with them. And in doing so, I've learned unbelievable things. It's just, I'm so grateful for that in my career because it's like, yeah, well, you can play because you're not going to beat anybody. Not in a bad way. It was just that's how it was. So,
Yeah. And before, well, I guess it was like right after ends were like when I first met you in the early aughts, Marshall was like, "Oh, you're gonna love Minton." She said that to me before we performed, and then when we were afterwards, I went back to her house. I didn't hardly knew her, and she was like, "Oh, why don't you come and stay at my house for the weekend?" So I did, and she just couldn't stop talking about you. And then after that, it was like you were circulating. I heard your name a lot in Nashville, and sort of like who this woman is, and how she moves and what she's doing. And it was so unusual but fun and funny and like and powerful in its own way, because I think what's really wonderfully disarming about the voice that in the narratives that you're spinning are that there is a point at which the narrative shows that it's about something that's like bigger than the story, and it's actually a mirror for a lot of things that we're grappling with in society, and with our own families, but also just as cultures, of sort of like, oh yeah, we do that, or this is a thing that we're going to continue to struggle with, or here's a character that we dismiss and don't look at, that like she's bringing out, and she's actually having us look there and look at the beauty and the complexity and the sometimes tragedy of that character. So there is some way in which it's almost activism to me, the work, in that way, but it's not trying to be that ostensibly, but it feels like that. And I'm curious about that because I know you and I have talked for years about sort of what, our beliefs really, and the belief in humanity, and when sort of, yeah, the patriarchy or systems or whatever interrupt that ability to take care of each other, to be who we are. And I'm curious, when you go into a work and you're writing a narrative, are you thinking about that, or it just kind of starts to thread itself?
yeah, I don't start out thinking, I'd say 90% of my pieces are feminist pieces in this very, like, you wouldn't guess it way because I look, not, and I talk like they're not going to guess it, right? They're just going to go, oh. And and that showed up. It showed up out, it was like, oh, I don't have very many male characters in my pieces. I'm not shoving out male characters. They just don't show up. And what I'm passionate about is female characters overcoming things, and female characters that were, you know, I'm just thinking of one of my pieces where the woman is seen that she starts out, they said she let herself go, and then at the end, she really, like in the best way, lets herself go. Because in my community, they'd say of women who weren't taking care of themselves, oh, honey, she's let herself go. And I just was absorbing all of this misogyny in the culture I was in, just like, wow. And I didn't even know how to name it. So when I started writing, it wasn't intentional, like, oh, I'm going to write about misogyny and how to overcome it or anything. It was just like, that's what I know and that's what I've been exposed to. And this is as this there's always a turn in the piece, and it's more like, okay, here's the story, and then when the turn happens, it goes towards what you're talking about, and that is more just out of my living and breathing in a misogynist world, pretty much, you know.
Yeah, and the turn is the surprise. I mean, there's a surprise on the sentence level, but then there's also the surprise in the narrative suddenly where the turn happens and like it's like a like oh, this is sort of what it's about. And I'm curious too because this feels a lot of it that the genesis that's sort of pouring itself out in terms of where you get inspiration and material has to do with family
Yeah.
or growing up or whatever. And how much of it is I'm going to use that as my foundation, but then I'm going to like go into fiction and like, do you have like a balance there? Is it, yeah, can you talk about how you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like currently I have an aunt, not a great aunt, who is dating online at 87, and she's been married 7 times. This would be her eighth. And so there's this sort of like, oh my God, she's still dating and she sits up every night, online. And then you realize she has no money to live the rest of her life out. So she is dating online, trying to get some money. But it's funny, right? It's like, it's this story about her. Why is she dating? She's jealous of her daughter. And it's just sort of, you know, we all have this, it's sort of a funny story. And then you realize, oh no, this is why she's dating online at 80, mid 80s. And that's a current thing I'm working, and I find that um, I always lose the question, but I think that's what we're talking. It's just it starts with how I see people living their lives and what's underneath that. Every time, right? Every single time you hear that there's something happened, and oh, they look ridiculous, or they, oh, poor them. In my family, that's sort of our mythos. And then you drop in and you say, oh, that's for some other reason. And I feel like that's the central piece of my voice in my writing, is sort of telling something that's actually going on. Usually starts with something actual and then it drops in to something else.
Yeah, and in both those examples, it's things are not as they appear,
Right.
and that it's really survival, that's what she's very savvy.
Yeah.
How else is she gonna, what else is she gonna do at 87? She's not gonna be a server at Kroger or whatever.
Yeah.
She
It's
can't,
like,
you
right.
know.
And she's kept
So
her looks. So she's, it's like, and
yeah.
it's kind of a joke in the family, like, wow, she's kept her looks, man. Sort of,
Yes.
they're cracking. But anyway, and we love her, and but it's about something much deeper. Like you're
Yeah. And so what does your family think of it? Like if they were to see that, like what is there, did they know your work? Are they, what have they said? Have you gotten into any like riffs or anything because of it? Or?
It's amazing that my mother did not disown me, because I processed my whole relationship with her on stage while she was in the audience, and people go, "Oh my God, is your mother gonna, like, disown you?" And she'd just laugh, and she only could hear it on a funny. She would just pick up the funny, and which for me was such a cathartic thing for her to be in the audience, and I'm saying, we'd grew up in Hell's Kitchen down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So but so they have been really support. I don't think they tune into it, right? Most people don't pay attention to you. So it's just mostly I get calls saying, okay, here's a piece for you, and I'm sure everybody that writes through your family says, oh, you ought to write about this. But
Yeah, which is helpful. It's like, oh, but sometimes you're like, yeah, no. And then they're like, we don't can't figure out why it didn't show up anywhere. Okay, so I want you guys to be able to ask questions. I'm sort of hogging Minton, but some of the things that I think you can ask about. I mean, Minton, where are you with your books? Like, what's going on with them?
I've got not a whole first draft, getting close to a first draft. I think it's more novella-ish, and that is, a daily writing thing, and I'll get lost and found, lost and found, lost and found inside that. I'm working on pieces for a new record. I'll record a new record in spring, which is more these shorter pieces, like I read at the first.
And how do you decide which goes where? Like, okay, this I know goes on stage, this goes in the book.
Um, I pick stuff from the book and shape it into a piece that goes on stage sometimes because a gem will show up. There's like, oh, this is a performance piece for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can just feel it because of how it would be
Yeah.
performed. Yeah, 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 yeah. And when you look back at your career in terms of the writing itself, like, how did you know about getting it out there to the world? Like, how do you navigate all that? Because you don't fit in anywhere. So, how did you find outlets to get the work published and out in the world or
Um,
seen?
yeah, I got a record deal in 2000 because someone at my Waldorf school, I gave them some of my pieces and they said, well, why don't you? They'd seen two, I had been playing out and they gave me a record deal, which was incredible. So I got this early launch of some legitimacy. People thought I was legitimate because I had a CD to sell and I had two people on it that were like unbelievable, really talented. So I started putting my work out on CD first, and then I got a four book deal, and I've only written two of those books because they were really, it was not a great book deal. I was getting a lot of sanctioned stuff, and they wouldn't want certain things in the book, and so but this book I'm writing right now, I'm gonna see if they'll run it through them. But so yeah, so I put my work out. I've done seven records, and it's where mostly I put my work out.
And with the publisher, it's Thomas Nelson. No, who's your publisher?
It was called Southbow, which was they had a southern arm of Thomas Nelson. Not Thomas Nelson. They were absorbed by Macmillan and what's that other one? Yeah. And so
Yeah.
yeah, but I've got the editor, I mean the woman that's sort of I don't know, she said she can renegotiate that for this third book. We'll see. That's sort of up for grabs.
How did you get a four-book deal? Like what happened there?
Somebody came to a show. That's my whole career has been nothing but good luck and more good luck because I didn't know what I was doing. And someone was in the audience and she said, "Hey, I work for Westbow. Can you have lunch?" And okay, so we had lunch and she was also an editor. She's really good, Amy McConnell. But anyway, she's the one who did that.
Yeah, I mean, I always take a little bit of issue, like when someone says it's luck, because I think, just earlier you were like, I don't know if I fight with myself over performance and then, but you still perform. And from what I know, ever since I've known you, I mean, you've done the academy twice, you go to retreats, you go to the teacher training, you teach, you're in the world, you're in the conversation all the time, all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
Plus, you're doing self-actualization work and personal development. And so it shows, it's
Thank you
not
for
like
hearing that because sometimes I feel like I'm doing nothing. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
no, totally. Probably because you're also driven to do it. And so it doesn't, even if there's an argument with the self, it's still like you're driven to do these things and it's work that you love. But I would say that there is really hard work and a lot of talent in there. But the hard work is major. You're getting out into the world and you're willing to do it and you're willing to spend hours the daily writing practice and so, yeah, I mean, then it happens that somebody stumbles upon it and says, like, hey, what are you doing with this? Can we take you to lunch? And also, you are very willing to say yes.
Mhm.
You're not a resistant person. You're not like, oh, I don't want to do that, or about maybe laundry, but not about like the writing and performing. You're like, okay, I'll try it. So, yeah. So I would say maybe not as much luck as just like how much you're doing in a day. I mean, when you get up and start your day, it's about this. It
It
feels
does
like.
seem like, I love you. Thank you for saying that again. But it's like they're nodes, right? There are these nodes. I wish I could think of the word. I was in a workshop this weekend, was teaching one with a woman that talked about these neurological nodes. And if you're lighting them up, three or four or five things, then you get a gestalt of, and that's when things happen, right? Like you named it, writing every day. I come to retreats with you. I whatever I'm doing all this stuff. I make myself have lunch with one person, that's in, a creative person a week. But anyway, then those nodes light up and they start to become more than just the individual little things you've done, right? And then somebody shows up and says, you want, this.
Yeah, and you're always exploring. Like every time I reach back out, if we've lost touch for a little while, you're like, yeah, I'm going to like Vermont, or I'm like gonna go to this workshop, or you'll reach out and say, when's the next retreat? I want to come and write. I want to open up the store. And I think that all kind of then mm, it pays off. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It just
yeah.
does. It's like, yeah, it pays off. And I think people think like just because part of it is really fun and creative and adventuresome that it's like not gonna somehow give us a life work, but it will. It does eventually like turn into a career. And it's like I don't know quite how to conceptualize what I'm doing, but this is happening. And yeah, and I love that about your work so much. It's so inspiring for all of us to see that you keep doing it. And it used to be more of a conversation that you and I would have about how to conceptualize it, like what do I call myself and then it felt like somewhere along the way it kind of like dropped away. It's like you were Minton Sparks.
Yeah.
That's who you were, and that it didn't need to be conceptualized previously by anyone else. Yeah, it's brave work, love. It's very
Thank
brave.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
beautiful, beautiful work. So do you guys have questions that you want to ask Minton now that I've like um talked this through? Karen, you are making great notes here. It's so fun when somebody does that. Christina Dexter wants to be like you when she grows up. I know. I think we all need that. So
Hey, Suzanne and Minton. This is Karen Stewart.
hi.
I was sorry, I was just so many things you were saying were resonating with me, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this talk. I also come from East Tennessee, and so to have a someone like you talk about misogyny and overcoming that is really wonderful to hear. So I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share my appreciation.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. It's great to hear your voice. Yeah, it's interesting. It's fodder, right? Like for the work, especially right now. And
Yeah, right. I mean, it seems like that's a whole thing about voice. I mean, it feels like the more that gets in the more that gets louder and clearer in the conversation, because I think a lot of us are flattened, by the world. So, yeah.
And how would you say, and you're so humble, but so you're probably going to be like, I don't know, but you do know because you do it. How would you say, like, in this world where we don't feel like we have a voice, where there's a tremendous amount of noise, where people want to be heard because they're feeling things so passionately, like, how do you let that voice be heard? And how do you get through that hump of doubt when you want to put out a Substack or like put even a post or like what is it that like people can know about their voice and being able to write?
I don't know, that's right up against that all the time. Like, why to put something out that's, especially on social media, but just it makes stuff happen. Go ahead and do it anyway. Like, there's something about continuing to put stuff out there, then things come back, and that happens all the time, right? I just feel cringy a lot of stuff, but I just do it anyway. It's like, ugh, you know, I'm definitely a reluctant, I think a lot of people are, a lot of my friends are, but you put stuff out anyway. I also am a sleight of hand person in what I love that I have a costume that looks like I'm a Sunday school teacher and I still wear that sometimes. So people think I'm on their side. Well, not that I'm, you know, they'll think, oh, she's one of us. And then it's like, oh no, why did we, you know, it's like, so it's sleight of hand feels in my world is important. Just kind of, you know, head fake one way and go the other way. So that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's very Dolly Parton. You know,
Yeah.
it's very Dolly Parton. It's like I was watching a little clip from her the other day. I can't remember what the question is, but she turned it around sort of like, you know, oh, I know. The guy said, "Do you believe in living with each other before you're married?" And she goes, "Hell, I don't believe in living together after you're married."
Yeah. I mean, it's and I think especially in the state in where I am, I feel responsible for saying something, you know, because I'm down here in the cesspool of Tennessee, which, you know, has lovely things about it, but it feels like, okay, I'm here. So, you know, and I'm finding like I have a show right now that I'm workshopping and it's called local lady leadership. And so I just, you know, I have a little bit, I have a little bit of comedy in it. And it's like, you know, we love men. I love them, just don't want them in positions of leadership. And the whole, you know, even though they're here, they'll laugh and laugh. So just sneaking in, you know, sneaking in things.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And Molly has a question. Do you want to unmute, love? Let me see if I can help unmute you here. There you go. Or if you can't unmute, you
Chat.
can, oh, there you are. Hey, love. Ask away. We can't hear you. I don't know why.
Did she put it in the chat?
You can put it in the chat, love. I mean, it looks like she's unmuted, but we can't hear you. Put it in the chat if you can. We want to hear. We're interested. Yeah, it's interesting that disarming way of moving through this time, I think. And like as artists, how to do that with, you know, maybe that's part of the voice. You know, maybe that's part of the voice is like making a story out of it instead of just screaming.
Yeah, instead of knocking people over the head, just like, I mean, I think that's some people's job to knock you over the head, but other people like are, you know, coming in the sideway.
Yeah, and like whatever feels maybe fun or easiest, like letting yourself look at those pieces. Like, okay, I could write a narrative about this, or I could shout, or I could, you know, whatever. Like, but say something because otherwise the voice gets stuck, I think.
Just butt dance over the top of something, you know, like I love, you know, like really loudly over the top of something. That's also, I don't know,
Think
that's
my
a,
microphone's on. Is
Oh,
it on?
hey, there she is.
Hey, when you were asking about the politics and is she intentional? I just remember when you wrote Kitty's Flowers. And the first time I heard that, first of all, I sobbed like a baby. And it was so deep and it was so like the more you heard it, the more I mean, it blew my mind. And I've never told you this, but 3 weeks ago, someone in the supermarket was behind me and started talking about flowers and kitties. And, but it's just one of this beautiful story. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but that was one of the most political things you've ever done. And it wasn't to me, and it wasn't political. It was this beautiful story about this brokenhearted woman. And yet it just uh, encapsulated what's going on here, especially down in the South.
yeah,
Uh,
thank you. Yeah, I forget about Jesus, kitties and flowers. Yeah, I mean, exactly, it's just telling a story about someone on the side of the road and, you know, all of our judgments about her. And then there's a turn in the piece where you realize her son's been killed in the war. I mean, without hearing the piece, it's hard to know it, but there's just that, okay, here's what happens on the surface. And then here's what happens underneath the character, which I hope, you know, that there's a deep empathy for these a cast of characters that have run across my, you know, my life. So
Mhm.
yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, maybe that's the work of character driven narrative, is sort of to show that complexity and where we come from and what makes us the way we are. You know, I think that's what's happening with social media, is that there's this shouting and then we just see the shouting and we don't see anybody there except for this like loud, and then there's this, there's this line that gets crossed. It's like, whose narrative are we going to give voice to, or whose narrative are we willing to showcase? Because certainly we all have choices. I hate the line, like, we do the best we can. Like, no, we don't. I don't do the best I can all the time. So how could he be doing the best he can? You know what I mean? So I think it's just interesting that the showcases these women and the complexity of these women, and not women who are coming from privilege. It's a great question, Molly. And then this question from, I think, Karen: how did you first start out with performance art?
I was a writer forever, and I was getting little things published in journals, and I thought, if somebody picks up this journal, maybe 40 people will read it tops, and then my brother had a one-man show, and he said, why don't you come read some of your little pieces, because I don't have my hour fleshed out. So could you just bring some of your pieces? And I decided to get a costume and get a guitar player, and just that was my very first performance ever. So I had music behind me, and that was, 27 years ago, maybe. But that's how I started. And then I realized how powerful it was to stand up and be embodied and be in my voice with the piece. And that's the thing am most excited about, is like, what happens when the body finds the piece, because then it's like super powered. If the pieces can, I was always taught, if it doesn't work on the page, then it doesn't work, which is probably true. But boy, to put it in the body and put it on the voice is like, for me, I kind of take off into hyperspace.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like Jody's saying, we need a Minton Sparks Netflix series, or like even like a one woman show, like Hannah, what's her name? I can't remember. She plays a persona and she does this like one woman show. I think it's about an hour. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? And she like completely, yeah, Gadsby.
I
She,
love her.
yeah, she completely makes that turn, and she makes it within herself as the performer. It's like we're looking at somebody that we think is like a lesbian with cats, and then it just starts to sort of turn halfway, three-fourths through, and we realize, like, holy shit, I hold this bias. The viewer. I mean, it was just like the alchemy. And I feel like your work does that in this very compassionate way that holds us while it does it. And yeah, I agree, Jode. I think this could be an incredible Netflix. That's your next horizon.
It started here. No,
It started here.
yeah, thank you. That's good. Yeah, we talk about that. It's just hard to make it happen. But yeah, that's a goal. That's really a goal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. You do it. You just do it so beautifully. And do you have anything else to say, like that you want, advice you would give, suggestions you would give, like anything else in this time for artists, for writers, for people trying to break out and do their thing?
I think I mean, that's why I am so grateful to you that you are building and continue to build these big communities for women. I know there's men involved, but it's just to be in a community, to not let yourself slip out of community, because I am noticing like lone wolf right now is not the time to do it. Because I sort of have that proclivity, but I'm running towards community and and creative community at more than anything, because I feel like that it's just sanity to start with. And then I think the voice that rises up out of the community, it not only feeds the community members, but then it feeds, I just see it every time. I had a workshop on Sunday and everybody left like I was about to go off the edge. It's like be in a creative community of some sort.
Yeah, and I would say a creative community that's supportive rather than that's, breaking down the work or deconstructing it, or, asking you to fix it or asking you to be someone else. It's like, you know, find the creative community that's like, I'm going to help you make the work even more of what it is, because this is where it shines and this is where you have talent and this is where it's powerful. You know, we don't know that about ourselves because we feel like we're just speaking or writing into the void. So that's just such a beautiful reminder that, like, find that community that can do that, that doesn't look like the overarching paradigm. And then Sheena Cook, who's here on the call, who loves you so
Sheena,
much.
I haven't seen Sheena in forever.
I know you guys have been on retreat a number of times together. She said, I remember a line from Minton at the Gateless Nashville retreat at the Buddha House. You remember that? You
Yeah.
can't hate someone when you've seen the contents of their handbag. Oh my God. I love that. So great. I love that she remembers it. Isn't it
Yeah,
amazing how you can remember like a really good
I
line
know. I
retreat?
know. I love that. And I always say this. I mean, I feel like you gifted in that in a way that nobody is, right? It's unbelievable what you can pull out of writers. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, love. Well, I just am so grateful that we met at that weird event. That
My
was,
now partner was at that event. So anyway, that's
you're
why.
kidding. Is that the
No.
first time he saw you?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What?
Isn't that
That is
crazy?
epic. That is
Yeah.
amazing. So that was important. So this is like the power of yes, right? You and I
Yes.
met, you met your
Mhm.
future partner. Who knew you were
Who
married back
knew?
then to someone else? Yeah, and that's why we do it. That's why we
Right.
write. That's why we say yes to the production. That's why we move ahead from the doubt to the stage, or the to the writing, or say yes to the. That's incredible. I love the power of yes, Karen. It's true. Oh my God, I love you, Minton. Every time I see you, I want to, like, yeah, kidnap you and bring you to my house for days and days on end.
At New Year's. We'll do it at New Year's.
Oh yeah, we're doing it in New Year's. I
Yeah.
can't wait. I'm so
Okay.
excited. I
Thank you
love
for having me. And just thank you. I sing your praises to everybody I know, because not because it's just the truth, right? It's like Mary Gaucher and I were at this little thing in Canada, and I was like, oh my God, if you don't know Suzanne Kingsbury, you better get to know her. It's like,
Thank you, love. I love you guys so much. I love this community. I love everyone that's, like, been attracted to it and is in it. And we're so lucky to have everyone around us doing this incredible work, including you. And thank you for being such a troubadour, such a, like, yeah, such a rascal, like getting in there and doing it. And you just have incredible light and power and talent and just a fierce uniqueness that no one else has. And it just makes me feel so lucky that I know you. So I
thank you. I love it. That's gonna catapult me into something big.
And anybody who wants to discover Minton's work, for me, I think that what Minton's work does is it provides the prompts for opening up the areas of the brain that are fire in terms of the creative. So, like, just getting those albums, buying the books, it's like you can just look through them and feel it. You get into that space of the somatic creative experience and you are able to move to the page. So we're really lucky to have that work in the world and to have you around. And yeah, and Minton has experiences coming up that you can join, and we'll let you know about those. I love you, sweetheart, so much.
Thank you so much.
You are the best. Mwah, mwah. And thanks, you guys, for coming. You were so great. This was such a great crowd. I just love all these people who are gathered. I wish we could do a salon with this particular group. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week. I love you. Mwah, mwah.
Thank you so much.
Bye, love.